Rachel here with Yarn at Play Crochet. So I did a wash test on some ice yarns that I've had for a little bit, swatched them up and threw them in a hot wash and a hot dry to see how they would hold up. I don't know about you guys, but durability is a big thing with me. I need things that are wash and go. I need things that are going to be durable through multiple washes. My kids the other day, my 1-year-old, she grabbed a cup of then cold coffee because, of course, I didn't get to drinking it on time. And she pulled it off the little end table and into a basket that was filled with a bunch of crochet work. So if you've had experiences like that, you know how important durability is in your yarn, and you know how important it is that it holds up well in the wash. So I swatched a bunch of stuff up, threw it in the wash. Let's see how it turned out. All right, everyone, let's get started talking about these different yarns that I have here today. I'm going to go ahead and get started talking about the cotton blends that I have here. So I have 3 different cotton blends that I ran through the wash, hot dry, and let's see how these held up and what they wound up looking like. So the first one that we have here from Ice Yarn is Lorena worsted. It is a 55% cotton, 45% acrylic. It is a 4 worsted weight. I would say it's true to a worsted weight, so it's a smidge on the chunky side, if you can see that, for a 4 weight yarn. It's definitely not a 5, but it's just it's a solid 4 weight yarn. It works up really, really nice. I've been really, really happy with how this works up. It is currently my favorite yarn for my amigurumi projects. Works up really quickly. It's very smooth to crochet with. Splitting is not a massive issue because you can see the tight twist on that. It does crochet up really, really nicely. This color is the camel color, so you can kind of see what this looks like before it is all washed up. It has a really nice fluff and squish. It's almost spongy a little bit, if that makes sense. Really, really nice yarn to work with. I've been really happy with it as a cotton blend, but as we know, you wash and dry cotton and you're always a little bit scared of what's going to happen. So let's see how it worked up. This is a swatch that I made, and this has been washed on hot and it has been dried on hot. And I threw all of these into the same load with a bunch of nasty, dirty kids' clothes and towels, things that I would normally wash on hot to make sure that they get everything out of it. And this really has little to no difference in it whatsoever. This yarn does not have a fuzz, so it doesn't have a fuzz even before you wash it, and after washing there is still no fuzz at all. It looks really great. If anything, the fibers just expanded a little bit to make those stitches look a little bit closer, kind of to close up any holes that might be in your stitches. I worked this up using a 5.5mm crochet hook, so it was a smidge on the small side for this yarn anyways. If you want it to be, you could use a 5.5 all the way up to probably a 6.5mm crochet hook with this yarn and be just fine. It turned out great. There's no pilling. I don't see any damage. The color, as you can see, is still very true. There was no fading whatsoever. I intentionally left my tails so that you could see how the yarn kind of behaves in the wash, and this one just kind of untwists, which gives it that kind of expanding effect in your stitches. Obviously, your stitches are not going to come undone at all, but that just kind of shows what happens to the yarn while it is stitched up, going through a hot wash, hot dry. Really impressed with this. It did great. I think that this would be absolutely wash and wear durable. I probably wouldn't throw in the hot dryer on purpose, but if you did throw it in a hot dry, you would not have to be anxious about how it would come out. It would stand up, it would withhold that heat really, really well. I only have a dryer. My dryer is an older dryer and it doesn't have different heat settings on it, so I can only dry things on hot. So my only 2 options are hot, dry, or lay flat to dry. Being that said, I still would probably, if I made a garment out of this, I'd probably still just throw it in the dryer because that's kind of my lifestyle. I have 4 kids and I need to be able to just throw it in the dryer and let it go. So that is Lorena worsted. Really impressed with how this came out and the color fastness and the durability of it. It really is a nice durable yarn. And if anything, as far as feel in the hand, it softened up a smidge, but it stayed pretty close to its feel pre-wash. So that is Lorena worsted. So let us jump to the next one of our cotton blends, which this was Lorena worsted. This is just plain Lorena. So that can be a little bit confusing. There's lots of different varieties of Lorena on Ice Yarn's website. There's Lorena worsted, there's Lorena colors. I think that there might be Lorena prints. I'd have to double check, but I know that there's Lorena colors. And then I think that there's Lorena extra fine as well. There's lots of different varieties of the Lorena name on the Ice Yarn's website. This is a 2-weight yarn, and I would say that that's pretty true, that this would say that this is correctly classified as a 2-weight yarn. This is actually softer. It has a softer feel in the hand than the Lorena worsted. This is not scratchy. The Lorena worsted is not scratchy, but this is definitely softer. It still has that little bit of squishy, spongy feel. Not nearly as much because it is just a thinner yarn, but it is almost like, maybe velvety is not the right word, but it's very, very soft. It has a great feel in the hand, especially when you're working it up. I don't have the label on this one. This is just one that I grabbed that I caked. I have been working on making a little amigurumi swatch with this because I also want to test my yarns for amigurumi. So I'm going to make this into a little ball, throw this into the wash, and see how it holds up as an amigurumi project as well. And all of my amigurumi swatches are going to be washed hot and dried hot as well to give it kind of the worst case scenario. How is this going to survive kind of a thing. But you can see how even those stitches are. This is a really great amigurumi yarn. I've been really happy with how this has been stitching up. It's not my #1 favorite just because I prefer a chunkier yarn when I'm doing my amigurumi. But this is still, if you like the very fine yarns for amigurumi, so you can get those tiny little stitches, this is definitely a great option for that. So this is what it looks like pre-wash. And then this is my washed swatch here. And it did really, really well. This was soft to begin with. This has softened up slightly more. You can see how beautiful those stitches are. I'm trying to remember what I worked this up with, which crochet hook. It was either a 3.5 or a 4. I can't remember the exact hook size I worked this up with. But the stitches are very, very even, very nice. Same thing as with the regular or the Lorena worsted. The yarn came apart, the tail came apart in the wash, which just kind of shows that those fibers are expanding and loosening up in the wash. So my stitches are a little bit tighter after the wash, but there's no shrinkage here. And there was not any shrinkage with this either. Just because the stitches are expanding a little bit and that yarn is expanding a little bit to fill out some of those gaps, there is no shrinkage here. Lorena is also a cotton acrylic blend. I think it's the same content as the Lorena worsted. I will double check and I will put that in the video here so you can be 100% confident in what the blend is. But I'm pretty sure it's 55% cotton and 45% acrylic. Out of all of the cotton acrylic blends, this one has my favorite feel to it. It just really does feel beautiful in the hand. It's got a great drape. This would be a fantastic summer yarn for any kind of garments, or anything that you would really want to produce with this. It's a 2-weight yarn, so you're going to have more stitches. So if you're like me and just aren't a very patient person and likes to work with chunkier yarns because they work up faster, that would be my only caveat to that. But just look at how beautifully even those stitches are. And it's soft. If you have the patience to work this up into like a breezy summer top or something like that, it is going to turn out absolutely beautiful. You would not have any regrets. And this would be something that I definitely would also, just like this, not hesitate to just throw in the wash, throw in the dryer, and it would last and last and last. And you can see this yarn has no fuzz either. There's no fuzz on this yarn at all. There wasn't here and there isn't here. So you didn't get fuzzing or pilling after the hot wash, hot dry. It held up really, really great. So that is Lorena. And now my last cotton acrylic blend that I have here, this is Alera. And this is a straight 50-50 cotton acrylic blend. They classify this on their website as a 3-weight yarn. I think that that is a misclassification because if you look at this, especially in comparison to the Lorena, which they classify as a 2-weight, I don't see any difference in the thickness of those yarns. If anything, the Lorena, which is classified as a 2-weight, might actually be a smidge thicker than the Alera, which is classified as a 3-weight. So I think that the Alera is misclassified in that. I would call this a 2-weight yarn. It is very soft, very squishy. The regular Lorena is softer than the Alera. Alera is still soft and squishy, not as soft as the Lorena. Lorena comes in 100-gram skeins. This comes in 50-gram balls, which is why you see the size difference here. Alera is still a really great yarn to work with. Comes in tons of colors. All of these varieties that I'm showing you come in at least 40 different colors. Tons and tons of colors on all of these cotton acrylic blend yarns. Still nice and squishy. Not as marshmallowy soft as the Lorena, but still really great. It worked up really, really nice. And this is my washed swatch here. It has a good feel to it. Definitely durable. And like the Lorena swatch here, you can see that the stitches are very, very similar, very uniform, and just worked up beautifully, and it survived the wash fantastic. There's no color fading at all from the original color. This is very true. There's no fading or bleeding or anything like that. Same thing with my tails here, and then they tied into a little knot in the wash, but the yarn fibers expanded and loosened up a little bit, so those stitches are a little bit closer and more uniform and just a little thicker. But I would not hesitate to make a garment out of this. Again, a pretty lacy summer top or something like that would work up just beautiful in this yarn. It's not as soft in the hand as the Lorena. So, and for me personally, if I was trying to choose between these two yarns, which are very, very similar, I would go with the Lorena. Unless there was a color in the Alera that I just absolutely have to have, and they didn't offer it in Lorena. But this is still a really great yarn. Again, no fuzz on this yarn. There was not to begin with, no pilling, no wear and tear, obvious wear and tear that I can see on this at all. I would not hesitate to wash and dry this every time. It really held up great. And this is a wonderful option for all of your projects that need to be durable, wash and wear type stuff. Again, 2-weight might take a little bit longer to work up, but if you have the patience for that, which I admittedly don't always have the patience for that, would turn out absolutely gorgeous. This would be a stunning yarn to work with. So those are my cotton acrylic blends. So now transitioning, we're going to go to 100% cotton yarns. And we'll start with this here. This is a chain spun yarn called Natural Cotton Air. Now I got this because I wanted something that was going to work up into a nice summer top. And I liked chain spun yarns. They're just really nice to work with because they do not split at all. You can see that chain and how that's different from these, which are a ply. So these are twisted and these are chained together. So you will get some splitting. I mean, every ply yarn is going to split every once in a great while, These are not split yarns though. Did not have any splitting issues on any of these cotton acrylic blends at all. But if you want something that's 100% split proof, chain yarns are the way to go. It feels pretty soft. It's definitely not as soft as the cotton acrylic blends, but it is decently soft. This is a 2-weight yarn, and it is true to a 2-weight, I would say. You get 300 meters in a ball. It is 100% cotton. And I'm pretty sure that I worked my swatch up with a 4mm crochet hook, I believe. This is the only yarn that I used that I was a little bit disappointed in how it came out, but that's just because of shrinkage, and I will show you that. This is the swatch that I worked up with the Cakes Natural Cotton. I wasn't expecting to like this yarn. I would say that this is probably better for more like, I made a beanie out of this, and I really loved the beanie that I made out of this. I made a nice lacy, airy summer beanie. I have very short hair. I don't always have time to wash my hair every single day, so I needed a bad hair day beanie, so I made one. And I was really, really happy with how it turned out. I was more impressed with how it worked up as I was making that beanie than I expected to be. It's a bit, not scratchy. It's a rougher texture. The chain spuns always have a little bit more of a rougher texture to them. They're not quite as silky smooth as ply yarns. But I was still really happy with the feel of it, the weight of the piece. I thought it had a really nice weight to it. And it worked up really, really nice, and it had a really pretty drape, but then I washed it and I dried it on hot. If I'd washed it on hot and just laid it flat to dry, I think it would have been just fine. But because I threw it in the hot dry, this shrunk up pretty significantly, and I'll put it over one of my other swatches so you can see the shrinkage here in just a minute. It shrunk almost a full inch all the way around. So you can see that in just a second. This is still a great yarn. I would probably not make any kind of garment out of it just because of the feel of it and because of the shrinkage issue. But if you have something in mind that you want something like this for and shrinkage is not an issue for I would definitely get it. It's a steal. It's like $4.99 for 4 of these in a pack. So that's $4.99 not per skein. That's $4.99 for 4. So it really is a fantastic deal. And if you have something in mind that this would be perfect for, highly recommend. Tons of great colors. I believe that this color was mink. I'd have to double check. But I think this color was mink. It might actually be sold out, this specific color. If you can tell, I went with lots of neutrals and beiges because summer garments, I wanted something that was light colored and breezy. And breathable. So that is the Natural Cotton Air, and I will set this off to the side so I can show you in comparison to the other 100% cotton yarn that I have here, which is Cakes Natural Cotton. Now I don't have a little skein to show you for this. I'm just going to show you my current whip that I'm working on, and that is this. The colors obviously are gorgeous. Love the colors. And that was something that I was really concerned about. This is pre-wash. I have not washed this, okay? I was really concerned about the color fastness because I think we all kind of know that with 100% cotton yarns, fading is always a concern. And these colors are just so lovely that I was really concerned that they would dull significantly in the wash. And that would make me, obviously, very sad and upset. So I just swatched up a piece. And I put it hot wash, hot dry, and I wanted to see what the color fastness would look like, how it would feel on the hand after it was done. And I will show you what my washed swatch looks like. Here is my washed swatch. Now, I don't see really any fading. You can see these oranges here. They are pretty much identical. Like I tried to find here. There's more orange on this side. That's the number one thing that I was looking out for was fading. I do not see any fading here. The colors stayed very, very true. And on the blues as well. Here, this square has more blue in it. On the blues as well. the colors stayed very, very true. They stayed color fast. They did not lose or fade any color. This, the tails stayed twisted. The fibers obviously did expand slightly, so it looks slightly more dense. But if anything, this just softened up in the wash. I would still say that the feel is still pretty close. But I would say that this softened up in the wash just a smidge. So that is, excuse me, how it survived a hot wash and a hot dry. And for 100% cotton yarn, that is impressive. I was really impressed with how this held up. And really, really pleased with that, because that gave me a lot of confidence working on this piece here, that if things get spilled on it or just get, you know, I have 4 kids. Accidents happen. That I can throw this in the wash and not have it be an issue at all. I still think that with this yarn, I would not throw it in the dryer. If you have a dryer that has temperature settings, which I'm assuming most people do, I think that you could throw this in on a low heat setting and be just fine. I wouldn't hesitate to throw this in the dryer every single time on a low heat setting. Since that is not an option for me, I would lay flat to dry. But if it did get thrown in the hot dryer on accident, somebody else is changing the laundry, they throw it in there, you can still have confidence that it's not going to ruin your piece. Your piece will come out just fine. It will survive. It will live to go on to another day. So no need to panic about that. And then I will show you the size comparison in shrinkage. So these 2 swatches with the natural cotton ear and the Cakes Natural Cotton were the exact same size. I worked all my swatches up to be as close in size as I possibly could. And these 2 swatches in particular were pretty darn identical. And you can see the amount of shrinkage that happened with the natural cotton ear. So that beanie that I made, I didn't test it with just a swatch before I threw it in the dryer, and it did shrink down. I'm going to have to make myself a new beanie because now it fits my 4-year-old daughter. So that's a bit of a bummer, but it's still a great yarn. You just need to be aware of the shrinkage issue. If you wanted to make something out of the natural cotton ear, lay flat to dry. I wouldn't even throw this in on a low temp dry. I would just lay flat to dry if you were doing anything with the natural cotton ear, if you were concerned about shrinkage, because that, to me, that's significant shrinkage right there. And I would not want my piece to shrink up and become deformed. So that is something to be aware of with the 100% cotton yarns. So this is, yeah, okay. Didn't blow my socks off. But the Cakes Natural Cotton, very, very impressed with how this held up. I think this was my biggest shocker and my biggest happy surprise out of the wash was the color fastness and the durability of it. Did a great job. All right, so I have one more yarn to show you really quick, and that is going to be Baby Merino DK. This is not a cotton yarn. This is a merino wool blend yarn. So it's the wool and acrylic blend. Again, I will put the exact fiber content up here so you can see. It automatically has a natural fuzz to it. It is nice and soft. I would say it's got good squish to it. It's a ply yarn. Obviously, you can see that twist. It's got a good amount of fuzz. I'm not a huge fan of fuzz in my yarn. That's just a personal preference. But in my brain, fuzzing equals pilling, and I am very anti-pill. But this is a really nice yarn. If you're looking for something with a more natural fiber content, this is a really good option. It is nice and soft, and that color is really beautiful. You can't really see the true color on here. I'll put a picture up here so you can see what the true color looks like from a picture on Ice Yarn's website, because it's just not coming across on camera as vibrant as it actually is. But this is a very vibrant, like jewel emerald green. It's very, very pretty. And I'll put the specific colorway up there too, because I can't remember the name. So this is what it looks like pre-wash, and this is how it came out in the wash. Now this has wool in it, so again, I'm expecting maybe some damage with a hot wash, hot dry. I do not see any damage here. The only difference that I saw in this swatch is just that it has more fuzz to it because it went through the wash. And it's already fuzzy yarn, right? It's already got fuzz. I would say that it has a bit more fuzz because of the wash. So if you can see on the edges here. That fuzz and some fuzz there. I still would not be super concerned about the fuzz just because it's a wool acrylic blend. It's going to have fuzz. But it definitely is nice and soft still. I don't feel like the wash damaged its softness any bit. Like, it still is really nice, held up really great. The color fastness is wonderful, nice and durable. And this is a baby yarn. I'm planning on making some mittens out of this for my mother. She requested these for winter, which I have some time to make them because we're just at tail end of spring here, so I got some time. But I think that as mittens, you know, mittens get dirty. They just do. Especially here in our Michigan winters, they're going to get salt on them. They're going to get stuff on them. You're going to accidentally have your coffee slush in your hand in the car, whatever. You're going to need to wash your mittens. I think that these would hold up just fine. I would still probably put this in the dryer on a low heat setting, but it being me, I would still throw them in the dryer. If you wanted to be extra cautious, absolutely lay flat to dry. But for me personally, I'd throw it in on a low heat setting. But yeah, that's Baby Merino DK. And this is a 3-weight yarn. I would say that that's pretty true. It worked up, I think I used a 4mm crochet hook for this. So if you can see kind of the size comparisons here, let's see, 4-weight, 3-weight, and a 2-weight. So if that's helpful for you to see kind of the size difference, this looks like just laying here that it would be closer to a 4-weight, but when you're crocheting up with it, oops, excuse me, or knitting if that is what you were doing, it does, you're because of the tension on your yarn, it is a true 3-weight. So that is the Baby Merino DK. If you have any questions about any of these yarns, want to see all the colors, excuse me, that these yarns come in, I have all of these linked in the description box below. Definitely go check them out. Tons and tons and tons and tons of different color options, especially in, well, I think every single one of these yarns that I've shown you, all of these yarns have at least probably 40 or more different color options on ice yarn. So really, really great variety for those yarns. Again, links in the description below so you can see all the different color options for these yarns. And if you are curious, you know, what specifically I would recommend these for, you can always comment that below too. Have you tried ice yarn before? Have you thrown it in the wash? How did it survive? How have you found ice yarn's durability to be? I'm curious to hear from you guys. I want to know what is on your hook and what you are experimenting with. And if you're a fan of ice yarn, maybe you've tried them before and it's just not your thing. That's cool. Tell me. I'm curious to know why it just was not your jam. So yeah, I think that's it. If you enjoyed this, if you found this helpful, you like to see somebody else doing the swatching and the washing so you don't have to do it for yourself, be sure to give this video a thumbs up and to subscribe to my channel. I am planning on doing more reviews like this with different kinds of yarn through the wash so we can test them out. We know exactly how they're going to hold up and what that durability is going to look like. So thanks so much for hanging out with me here today at Yarn at Play Crochet, and have a wonderful rest of your day. I can't wait to hear from you guys. Thanks so much.